The Katana 15 is MSI's most sold gaming laptop in a lot of places. And with an Intel i9 and high power limits at a low price, this one does look impressive. But what sacrifices does it make to be cheaper? Let's find out. And please like and subscribe if you like these type of videos. From the outside, the Katana is definitely a gaming laptop. It has this black body with some pretty cool looking accents. And while some people might not like a flashy dragon on the back of their laptop, I myself quite like this raised design, and I don't think it's too flashy. It is fully made out of plastic though. It doesn't feel flimsy or anything, but mostly just because its beefy cooling system is holding it all together. But beefy cooling means it weighs quite a bit, and like most gaming laptops, it's not the thinnest either, so I wouldn't one-hand this thing. But that cooling definitely serves a purpose. This Katana has a high-power Intel Core i9 and an RTX 5060, which should be plenty for gaming. The i9-14900HX is basically the fastest processor you'll find in this price class. And with 24 cores, it is a beast. Pair that with the maximum power limits for an RTX 5060, and we should be seeing some very nice performance numbers out of this thing. It does also come in a 5050 and a 5070 configuration, and a bunch of other processors if you want something cheaper or faster. But MSI has definitely made use of that thickness, because the Katana has basically every port you can imagine. But like with most MSI laptops, I really feel like these ports should swap sides. I mean, all the beefy connectors are on the right side, you know, where you would normally keep your mouse. It comes with a 240 watt power brick, so it should be getting plenty of power. But this thing is pretty beefy, and it's not the lightest either. However, it also charges through USB-C, so you can use smaller bricks for emergencies. Now let's look at its keyboard. It is a full-size keyboard, so numpad enjoyers are gonna like this thing. And it also has a backlight, specifically a 4-zone RGB backlight, so you can use some pretty cool effects. And here's how it types. The keys definitely are a bit plasticky, but they feel very nice to type on. They have plenty of key travel and are quite clicky. It definitely feels comfortable. My only complaint here is that it only has a function key on the right side of the keyboard. This is of course minor, but I really like pressing the function keys with my left hand. Other than that, this is simply a great keyboard. Moving down, we have its trackpad. And it already isn't super huge or anything. It's made of plastic, and boy does it feel cheap. The clicks are mushy, it feels very plasticky, and it almost bends the body when you push down on it. It doesn't require much force to press down, which is nice, but I would honestly just recommend using a mouse. Moving up, we have its display, and if I had to describe it in one word, it would be mediocre. It is an IPS level display, so colors are decent, and in darker rooms it actually looks pretty good. And it doesn't have much backlight bleeding, which is quite surprising. And for gaming, it is actually quite nice. 144 Hz feels really smooth, so playing competitive games on it is just fine. But it really doesn't get bright, like at all. 300 nits is enough for indoor use, but as soon as you have any lighting near you, or if you sit near a window, yeah, you're not gonna see anything. I wouldn't recommend using this thing outside. Full HD is okay at 15 inches. I mean, it's fine, but it's not gonna blow you away. And while it does have a matte display coating, again, without the brightness to back that up, it's not really doing anything. The display can open up quite far, all the way to 180 degrees. But this hinge is just so floppy. And the overall build quality of the panel is just lacking. You can open it up with one hand quite easily, but since it can bend if you do that too hard, I wouldn't really recommend it. Alright, but what about speakers? Well, with cheaper laptops, that's usually where manufacturers save money on. Yeah, the Katana sounds pretty poopy. It doesn't get loud at all, it's completely lacking in bass and treble, and it also sounds muffled most of the time. It just has some basic 2-watt speakers on the bottom, so for music or games, I would recommend using headphones. The microphone on the Katana is pretty bad. I guess you can still understand what I'm saying, but it's not good. And while the webcam doesn't have the highest resolution, it actually looks quite nice and has really accurate colors. But when we get to performance, that is where this thing should shine. With a high-power Intel Core i9 and an RTX 5060, how fast is the Katana? Well, in Cinebench R23, it is really fast. Even though the i9-14900HX is a 2-year-old chip now, it sits high on the charts in both single and multi-core performance. And in 3D Mark TimeSpy, that RTX 5060 also performs really well. Because of its high power limits, it's actually one of the fastest 5060 laptops we've tested so far. So at least here, it did great. But benchmarks don't always tell you the entire story. We need to see how it performs with both the CPU and GPU under high load. And it is a gaming laptop after all, so let's see how it does in some actual games. So as you saw, it did very well in gaming. Since it doesn't have a crazy high resolution, it really benefited from that high power CPU. And paired with an RTX 5060, it got high frame rates in both CPU and GPU intensive games. But does that RTX 5060 actually reach its power limit in gaming? Well, no actually. In a very GPU intensive game, it hovered around more like 80 watts maximum. Well, in this case, that's not because it's power limited. It is actually being GPU bottlenecked in Cyberpunk. That i9 is so fast paired up with a 5060 that it doesn't really need to run at its maximum wattage. If this laptop did have a higher resolution display, it probably would have used that GPU a lot more. So for gaming, applications, or basically anything else, it is really fast. But maybe try to get an RTX 5070 variant if you want to get the most out of this laptop. But what about temperatures and fan noise? It might perform really well, but does it also stay cool and quiet? Well, yes actually. In heavy games, its CPU never went above 86 degrees Celsius, and its GPU never went above 82. So it's nowhere near its temperature limit on either one. But is that just because it's pumping its fan speed to the max? Yeah, it does get pretty loud. In the highest performance profile, the fans run pretty fast. You definitely have some thermal headroom on this guy though, so I wouldn't be too worried about temperatures. The keyboard deck does get a little warm after gaming for a while, but definitely not hot or uncomfortable. And during light use, it just stays cool and silent most of the time. But I am a little bit worried about battery life, because usually gaming laptops don't have the best numbers here. So I tested it in two different scenarios, under light use and during gaming. In the light use test, I played a YouTube video until its battery died, with its display at 80% brightness, at 60 Hz, and with the dedicated GPU turned off. And yeah, it doesn't really last long at all. The Intel i9-14900HX is a powerful chip, but it has no efficiency cores and uses quite a lot of power on battery. And in actual real-world use, you're probably not even gonna get 4 hours out of this thing, so I would recommend bringing your charger with you. Look, from the size and weight of this thing, it was already pretty obvious that it's made for power, not for efficiency. In the gaming test, I played Minecraft until its battery died, with the same settings as before. And again, it barely lasted longer than an hour, which is really short for a light game like Minecraft. But what thicker laptops lack in efficiency, they gain in versatility. Because this laptop is pretty thick, it has a lot of space for upgradeability. It's got fully upgradable RAM with 2 SODIMM slots, but weirdly enough, it only has one M.2 SSD slot, which is a bit of a bummer if you want more storage. It does still have a Wi-Fi card though, so you're not stuck with Wi-Fi 6E. But its value is completely dependent on its pricing. So how much does it cost? Well, I got this specific model with the i9 and an RTX 5060 for around 1,300 euros, which is low to mid-range pricing. However, there is a version with an i7 and an RTX 5070, which is actually cheaper and quite a bit faster GPU-wise. And then there's also an even cheaper model with a 5050, but I myself wouldn't go that low. Now in the US, pricing is a little different. You can find that same i7 and 5060 model for pretty damn cheap. But this variant actually has a higher resolution display. But then if you want to go up to an RTX 5070, it jumps in price considerably, so I would stick with that 5060 model. I'll put links for all of these in the description down below for if you're interested. So let's get to a conclusion here. Is the MSI Katana 15HX worth it? Well, for most people, I would say yes. The Katana is a great value gaming laptop. Despite being a cheaper laptop, it has a full damn i9, and with a high power 5060, it performs really well for its price. But to achieve that lower price, it definitely has to make some sacrifices. It is fully plastic, so while it doesn't have bad build quality, it does feel a little cheap. It has a bare minimum display, so while it is smooth for gaming, it's lacking in basically everything else. And overall, you can just feel that it's more of a budget laptop. But if you just care about performance, that is more than fine. Because that is the exact strategy that MSI was using for this laptop. It has great performance, great cooling, and they cheaped out on everything else. I really wish the ports were positioned a bit better and that the display at least got up to 500 nits. I mean, 300 is really not that much. But if you're looking for an affordable laptop just for gaming, I would say it's worth it. Now I will see you all in the next video. Bye bye.